Well, one of the things, and the reason why, as the title said, it's one of the few careers that is truly recession-proof, because even in good times and bad. I mean, think back to 2009 when, all hell was breaking loose, right? Everybody was in the doom and gloom mode and things weren't going well. Did you still spend money every day? Did you still think about retirement? Did you still have goals that you wanted to achieve, whether that's putting kids through college, whether that's planning to retire, so you could, or tell the boss off is what we call it, have some fun with it. Those things, no matter what, no matter where the economy is, whether it's good or bad, they still exist. And that's one of the nice things that we're able to do, because as a financial advisor, one of the things that we do is, in our approach here for our organization at New York Life is different than most, in the sense that most people think, all right, I can't meet with an advisor until I have money to invest, right? And the problem is, well, the economy's bad, there's not going to be money to invest. But our approach is very different. One of the reasons being is we're what's called a mutual company, not a stock company. We're privately held. We're owned by our clients. When someone purchases a policy, they become an owner with New York Life. And so because we are structured that way, we're actually the largest mutual insurer in the U.S., we do things a little bit different. Our role is not to be out there being the high-pressure sales professional that's out there, you need to invest, you need to invest, you need to invest. It's about being a resource, not just for our clients who are our owners, but also for members in the community. There are over 12,000 advisors nationwide, and we're looking to grow that organization. And that's the one thing that we're able to do that because of how we do our business and because of how we're structured. We like to make an old joke that we answer to Main Street, not Wall Street, and so it puts us in a little bit different light. But getting back to what I was talking about just a few moments ago, is no matter what time we're in, whether it's good or bad, money is on our mind every day. Most of us go to sleep thinking about money. Most of us wake up, money's on the mind. Throughout the day, we may think of it 20, 30, sometimes 50 times. And so that's the one thing what we're able to do, because what an advisor does at New York Life is the very first thing is not the front where we start and say, all right, how much money do you have to invest and what can we do with it today? Our approach is very different. There's a reason that we make money. What are some of those reasons? Goals. What else? This is, this can be interactive. That's okay. I promise I don't bite. There's no wrong answer. And what are the reasons that we make money? Why do we want to make money? To live, to enjoy life, right? To travel, whatever it may be. That's the one thing. And so what we do when we sit down with a client, an individual, is to really start with the end in mind. And that is what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Because, quite frankly, there's not one goal out there today, even religion, and I'm still going through rehab, and you can record this. I went through a Catholic school as a kid, and I'm still going through rehab from that, but I remember in 4th grade, you have to put money in as it passed the tithing plate, or you get in trouble. So everything requires money. Money is just a tool that's used to build something. If we're building a house, it's like the hammer or the nail. We really do is we help our clients to develop that blueprint. What are they trying to build? And I don't mean, okay, I want to save for retirement, or I want to build a house. I want to get real crystal clear. It's something where we want to know every detail what that client's looking to accomplish. Because have you ever had a goal, thinking back, of something, that's nice to have, or it's kind of hazy? Does it really ever happen? Very rarely. But have you ever thought about a time when there's something that I really want, nothing's going to stop me, and you have a clear picture of what it is? It happens, doesn't it? Yes. Even if you don't have a plan. Because you have a clear picture of what you want, that means it's important enough to you. And so what we do is we're able to sit down with our clients and get clear. And then the next thing is after we get a very clear picture of what it is, then what we do is make sure, is it something that's in line with their values? Is it something that they really want? Because a lot of people say, all right, I want this, but are they willing to put in the effort or the work that it takes to get that? And so it's making sure that it connects to their values or what's really important to them, and so that we're able to really figure that out. Once we have that clear picture, we do the opposite. We actually work backwards. And we take a look at it and say, all right, today where you're at, we all live our life based on income. And by the way, I was a microbiology major first year in med school, so I apologize in advance for my handwriting. Income minus expenses, and what's left over is really how we live our life. Would you guys agree with me on that one a little bit? Okay. So what we do, it's not about sitting down and saying, you're spending too much money, you need to start saving, you need to do this, because who do I sound like? A parent, right? And how well did that work? And those of us that have kids, how well does it really work, right? Now, as now someone that's admitting to mom that, by the way, you were right, it took, only 37 years for me to get to that point. But so for, the moms in the room, they will come around. It just takes us a little while. Guys especially, we're a little bit slower. But what we do is we sit down and we look at the expenses and basically what's left over and where it's going. I'm sure we've all seen this, the old needs versus wants. You know, our needs, the basic food, shelter, clothing, things like that. Well, we get our needs met, right? So where does most of our money end up? Going over to the wants. Things like going out to eat, shopping. I just transferred from our Seattle office, so Starbucks always comes to mind with me. And it's funny, when I was practicing, most of our clients would spend, $5 twice a day to go to Starbucks 5 days a week. And see, and that's what we do, is we sit down with our clients and say, that's not wrong or right, because it's not about my opinion and what I want, but what it's about is, do you guys work hard for your money? Who do you want to decide where the money goes, you or someone else? The barista behind Starbucks, the waitress or waiter, or some bill? We'd all want ourselves to decide, right? And that's what we do with our clients, is we empower them, we teach them a different way of looking at how they see money. Because, for example, using the old Starbucks idea, so if I go one day, once a day, $5 a day, well, if I go 5 times a week, next thing you know, that's $25 a week, times 50 weeks a year. Now that's $1,250 that's going every year to Starbucks. A little over $100 a month. But see, what does the brain do? The brain sets down at $5 a day. Oh, that's only $5 a day. When we go out to eat, right? Oh, that's only $10 a day. Though nowadays you can't even get a meal in the restaurant, especially in Manhattan for $10. Even McDonald's is getting close. And so, that's what we're able to do, is to sit down and show our clients, here is where your money's going, and then to show them in relationship, here's where it is in relation to everything else. So, for example, if it's $10 a day, that's $2,500. So someone making a $50,000 income, that's 5% of their income is going out to eat for lunch. And if we look at, all right, well, how much are you saving in your 401k? 3%. How do you feel about that? But see, most people don't stop and look at it that way. So what we do is we sit down and we show our clients. We take 3-6 months of their bank statements, and we're able to break down all of their expenses to show them where every dollar that they make, where it's going. And it's not to do anything more than to put them in a position of power, so now that they can decide, here's where I want my money to go. Because let's say this goal is to buy a house in 3 years. So we know that to save for that house, for the 3% down, it's going to take $350 a month. Okay? So we add another component, needs versus wants versus goals. See, so now we can break down and we can see, what does it take every month? We could take that $350 and we could break that down into what do you have to save every day, depending on how detailed someone wants to get. But now I can look at it and say, all right, so my goal is to save this. Well, I know right now I'm spending $400 going out to eat, $200 on shopping, which doesn't get you much, does it, nowadays? Or that's all right, right? Pair of shoes or something. $100 on entertainment, and another $100 on Starbucks. But by breaking things down and seeing, here's where my money is going, now we're able to take a look and see, all right, which one's more important? See, it's not my job to say, this is more important for you, Susan, you need to save, because what'll usually happen is I'll get the head nod, sure, Brian, I'll save, and then what happens? Get out the door, you get on the phone, call your friend, hey, you want to go grab something to eat? And that's what happens, because, again, if I don't own it, what are the chances of me taking action on it? And how often have we gotten advice from friends, right? Or how often have we gotten advice that we give advice that we don't take of our own? It's because until you come up with the answer, until you own it, and it's really tied to your value and what's important to you, there's not going to be a reason to take action. And so that's what we work with our clients to determine and show them, here's what it's going to take. Is this something that you want to take action on or not? Then it's a matter of, all right, well, maybe I can save $200. I can not go out to eat. I remember when I was practicing, I actually used to do meal plans for some of my clients. Because why do we eat out? Because we have nothing to cook. And so it's one of those things, trying to figure out. Going shopping. We help our clients, think financial advisors. We help our clients even figure out how to go shopping. Putting lists together. James has actually been out shopping with his client. We go to that detail. Because if you think about it, being an advisor is not just about the investment or the insurance or those types of things. It's about every which way that someone spends money. Because if I can sit down and show a client how to save money or not spend that money here if they don't need to and get the same result, that they can now take that money, transfer it over here and make it work for them, that's an advantage. So see, even in an economy where things are not going so well, we still have an income we live off of. We still have to survive. And so if we can make small, minor changes that doesn't really impact someone's life, we're able to put more money today to work for them. One simple thing is so many people, especially here in the States, we're very credit card happy, debt, right? And unfortunately, I run into that. It doesn't matter whether someone makes $30,000 or $500,000. I've seen people live outside of their means. And so what we do is sit down and have a real strong conversation. Why do they use your credit cards? Changing spending habits up here, not just on paper. getting someone to go from a credit to a cash mentality, little basic things like that, because that's the important thing that automatically brings someone over to really getting to a point where they're able to achieve a life that they want. You know, it's sad that U.S. Census Bureau just did a study that out of 100 individuals age 67, by the time they retire at 65, or sorry, age 60, was it 65 or 67? By 100 individuals, by the time they reach age 67, only 9 out of 100 will have an income of $65,000 or more. Okay, 9. Now, if I'm living in Iowa or Milwaukee, right, 65,000 is okay. If I'm living in Manhattan, can you survive on 65,000? Maybe, maybe not. And so, you know, that also depends on where we're at. But that's the sad part is only 9% are able to achieve that life. Why do you think that is? Exactly. Okay. Most people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. And that's where we're able to sit down with our clients and really help them to figure this out, to put together that plan that works for them. And he smiles at me as I say that because, you know, I tease him about this all the time when they're in class. James and Kathleen are part of our team. And but the thing is, it's so important is to just sit down, to be that resource that's there, because most people think, I need this to start, but you don't. You know, and some of my best clients, when I first started my practice, I did nothing more than help put them up on a budget. I was actually the one that was saying, stop putting money in your 401k. Start paying down your credit cards where you're paying 26, 28%, because I can't guarantee you a 26% rate of return. But I can if you pay down your debt. See, but most people get that, well, I got to save. But they're saving over here, but their debt's growing over here. So stop this, pay this down. First, before you even pay it down, build an emergency account for you. So you go to cash instead of credit. Change the spending habits here. Little techniques like that. That's what we work with our clients to do. So that at the end, their debt's able to be paid down. Now, how do you feel now if all of a sudden you're debt-free? Life gets a lot different, doesn't it? Or if your debt's under control and you don't have to worry about, how am I going to make ends meet? How am I going to pay the bills? Or I'll never get out of debt. And I see that happen so many times because we get ourselves caught in this situation, especially now in this economy. People think that's the only way. Go out and get another credit card because I've got to make ends meet. And that's one of the things is we help to teach them and show them that there are alternatives. But it's got to start right here. And sometimes it's seeing where it's going. You know, if you knew you had leaks in the roof, you'd want to patch it. The same basic thing as this. Okay. Questions from me? I mean, I'm right at my time now, so we're real close. I just wanted to leave the last couple minutes. Were there any questions or comments or thoughts that I could address or answer? Yes.
Well, one thing I was reading was that you put in and have several bank accounts or accounts where you sort of have money for this and needs and survival things and money for just things you may want and any goals and so on and so forth. So I don't know. So now I have a couple of accounts, but I'm thinking like how do I put everything there and how am I going to make them grow?
Right.
And are there savings accounts or accounts that can actually build?
Right.
There used to be.
There used to be, right? Yeah.
Funds and at some point I lost a lot of money with money.
And it really depends. One is we start with the very first thing is what's the use of that money? Is that something that needs to be there for an emergency account, or is it something that I can wait 5 years, 10 years? So that's what we start with first, is what's the purpose of that money? It's also, if the purpose is to help in retirement and I'm pretty well, and we figure out that, this is where you're going to need to be and you're really close, then we don't need to get that same return. We don't have to take the same risk and expose yourself like that. But if it's something we're looking to give you growth, there are a lot of different options. But most of those options we want to look at, it's 5 years plus. Then we can start looking at things that are like CDs but annuities. They give you a fixed guaranteed rate of return, but unlike an annuity, they grow tax deferred. So that money compounds, and they're actually able to allow that to grow tax deferred, and not with a CD. Every year that there's that growth, you get a 1099, you have to pay taxes on it. So it increases your income, and the amount of growth is not as fast. And so that's one of the options that we have. There's several different options, and that's the one thing. It really depends, again, on that individual situation. But, you're right in saying having separate accounts, and that doesn't mean you have to go to 10 different banks. No. Because that whole thing came about with the banks collapsing. Everybody had this fear, and so they're like, oh, no, I've got to go. But really, it's about setting up an account, if that's what it's for. If, maybe it's to take a trip every year, so I have the travel account. And, every year or every month, 50 or $100 goes into it. And that's a great thing because you're able to see that grow. But short-term things like that, really the best place to have it is just right there in the savings account. that's there. But sometimes removing it one time, especially when it comes to emergency accounts, I like to see it sometimes removed, maybe putting that in a savings account in another bank. Even nowadays, all it takes is 3 clicks. But it's those 3 clicks that mentally stops you every chance is going, do I really need to do this? You know, because if it's all in that one account or general account, then when Macy's is having their half-annual sale every other month, you know, which they seem to do nowadays, then it's, well, you know, this isn't so bad. And that's one of the things. And so, oh, sure. So, yeah, and exactly. But that's the right way to do it. I mean, that's one of the things, especially when working with spouses. I always have to have the, you know, it's kind of like the man card is what I tease them and call it. It's their allowance that they get. You know, remember when we were little, we used to get allowances. And I'll even set that up, but I've got 50, 60-year-olds that are giving themselves allowances, and it feels great. If you go below that and you do whatever you want, that's great. So you've got to enjoy life. You know, it's not something where you want to restrict. It's like a diet. You know, if you eat salads for the next 4 weeks, what's going to happen? You're going to find me at a pizza joint and burger joint for the next 4 weeks because you can only do that for so long. But it's making small changes and corrections that really get you to that point where you're able to achieve your goal. Other questions? Yes.
I'm just curious. So you said something about saving $350 every month to buy a house eventually. Can you clarify that?
Sure. You know, for example.
Does it mean they needs to be invested in some stocks, bonds?
Well, see, here's the thing, because, you know, let's say I want to buy a house in 3 years, all right? So now I'm 3 years out from that, and, you know, now, and of course, mortgages are changing daily, but there are still programs that are 3% down if you have the right credit and if it's at a certain limit. So, you know, if someone saves $9 grand, so if we can get them to save, you know, about $3 to $4 grand a year, by the time they're there, they'll have enough for a down payment. You know, since we're about a 3-year period or shorter, in that case, my recommendation would not be to put it in stocks just because what's happened in the last few years? What have they done? There's volatility. And the market's still a great place to be, but the market's a great place to be if you're looking 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Because see now, because what happened in 2009, March 2009 when it dropped to 6,000? Most people, they panicked, and what do? They pulled out. They did what most emotional investors do. Markets go down, we get scared, we pull out. Markets go up, we wait till they're up, and then we... So by having that, if someone's at that short period of time, they start to get very emotional. So we try and take that emotion out. Short term, we look at safe, secure things. And someone like that, we probably end up even just looking at a CD. They put them in a 6-month or 9-month CD. So they are earning, you know, so the money's not sitting there being lazy. I'm sorry? Oh, if you have a 1 year right now, rough is about a 0.9 to 1%. They're not. They're basically just enough to not even keep up with inflation, but it's doing something better than absolutely nothing. That's the way I look at it. Is if I can even get 1%, and so at the end of the year it's an extra $10. It's still an extra $10 that it's not costing me anything, and it may help. You know, just little things. It's making my money work for me as best I can. That's really what we look at.
So it's basically accumulate money, enough money for down payment?
Correct. Oh. Yes. Yeah. You know, and then while we're doing that at the same time, you know, we've got them working with the mortgage broker to figure out, all right, you know, what programs are out there, what would I qualify for, pull in a credit score, having them pull it, and look. So these are the steps that we're able to help them to get to. So that way, unlike most, that all of a sudden, all right, we're ready to buy, what do we do? Well, they're too late. Well, you've got to save, your credit score needed to be this. They could have been working on that 3 years ago, so by the time they got there, had they planned, they would actually be there, instead of now starting that window. Does that make sense? Other questions or comments? I'm sorry? Sure.
A response. What would you say to those folks who think that they're savvy enough to do their own finances? Can you talk about the importance of working with a financial professional?
Sure. I mean,
doing it yourself?
Here's the one thing. Everybody needs to be their own financial advisor, because how often do you spend money? Every day. How often am I going to meet with a client? Not every day. I mean, that would be a little annoying having me sitting here, hi Susan, how are you doing today? You know, every day we're working together. She'd probably get tired of me after about first day. Maybe. So, you know, what we do is we teach our clients how to take control, but where we are, we're more of the coaches. We're giving them the guidance. And for someone that says, well, I'm savvy, I can do it, that's wonderful. Because I encourage you to be your own advisor. Because you spend money every day, you need to watch and advise yourself on this every day. However, if there are things that we can look at that may be able to get you there a little bit safer, a little bit more secure, or maybe that we can put your money to work for you a little bit better, would you be open to that? Yeah. And that's really what we do. You know, we sit down, and it's not to... And that's the one thing. Our approach especially is not to say, here's the product you need to be in and there, but here are the different investments. You know, for someone that's looking at different styles, well, here's how a savings account works. Here's how a CD works. Here's how an annuity works. Our thing is not, there's not one good or bad product. God love Susie Norman. She's a great person, but sometimes she gets pigeoned into this. There's only one black and white. Financial services is not black and white because there's a product for every need. The key is to understand the products that you're going into, because those of you, I'm sure, that have bought a product, whether it's an investment or that, most advisors, unfortunately, do a really bad job. Here's where you should be, and here's why. And they talk way above the head, and they just make it to this point, and you just go, okay, and you sign on the line. Or like most people do their 401ks, so what did you pick when we do the water cooler talk? And we usually look at the year-to-date returns, which unfortunately are the worst thing, but there's always the first thing on the prospectus. And people go, ooh, 12% year-to-date. Well, the fact that it's been underperforming the last 11 years, we don't see. You know, things like that. And that's where having the professional advice, because the average investor earns between 3 and 4% on the rate of return, whereas working with an advisor can get you between 8 and 9% rate of return. Yes. And it's not, and you're going to have good and bad. You've got good and bad and everything. You've got good and bad doctors. But it's like, I mean, we really do, you know. Unfortunately, it's a people. And that's why, you know, the company only goes so far. It's when we, you know, sit down and teach our advisors how to work with clients. Our advisors are the product. Because when someone's starting a relationship with an advisor, that's who they're developing that trust with. You've got to feel comfortable to, essentially, you're really getting yourself, financially exposing yourself. Does that make sense? Because you're sharing the good and the bad. And that's the one thing. We teach our advisors to not be judgmental, not make you feel bad, but make it a nice, open place to where you can. Because if you don't share this, we're never really going to figure out the problem. See, so many people are afraid to do that. So many people are so afraid, and unfortunately, we beat ourselves up so much. And Dad, I'm doing so many things wrong, but I'm going to have this $100. I'm going to start saving it. When really what I need to do is look at where my problems are and focus on that, and not beat myself up, not be right or wrong, but let's look at where it's at and objectively, and then look at it. We look at everything. Yeah. We offer to, I mean, some of our, you know, higher net worth clients, everything's fine. That's fine. We'll work on this side. But one of the things we really want to do is we want to focus on this, because this end is more important sometimes than the investment or the product choice. Because if I've got a product that's getting you a guaranteed 10% rate of return, but yet you're blowing money out here and you're spending too much, maybe it's going out to eat an extra time, or you're going to, you know, you're paying too much for clothes, or you're paying too much for this or that, or you've got a lot of debt that you're using your credit cards for and you're paying 28%, it's not going to get you where you want to go. And so that's the key behind that. So, other questions at all? All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.